I joked about being single, and 3 vampire sisters claimed me on the spot. Marcus Chen stood at the observation window of Threshold 7, watching stars drift past in the endless void of space. His reflection stared back at him, a 32-year-old man in a crisp diplomatic uniform, looking far more nervous than he wanted to admit. "Stop fidgeting with your collar," said Ambassador Patricia Hale, walking up beside him. She was the leader of Earth's first contact team, a woman who had negotiated treaties with 4 different alien species. "You look fine." "I'm worried about messing up humanity's first meeting with a civilization that drinks blood and lives for thousands of years. And you have a gift for making people comfortable." And according to every report Earth had received, they were dangerous. The door behind them slid open. Captain Rodriguez stepped through, his military uniform perfectly pressed. "They're ready for us," he said. "The vampire delegation has arrived." This was it. The ceremonial hall of Threshold 7 was massive. The ceiling stretched up into shadows, decorated with glowing crystals from a dozen different worlds. Delegates from various species lined the walls, all watching with intense curiosity. This was the first time the Sanguine Collective had agreed to meet with humans face to face. At the far end of the hall, the vampire delegation waited. Marcus had seen pictures, but nothing prepared him for meeting them in person. They looked humanoid, but there was something otherworldly about them. Their skin was pale, almost luminescent. Their eyes seemed to catch and reflect light in ways human eyes didn't. They moved with a grace that seemed impossible, as if gravity affected them differently. The leader of the delegation stepped forward. He was tall, wearing robes that seemed to shift between deep red and black. His face was angular and sharp, and his eyes were the color of amber. "I am Lord Castellan Various," he said. His voice carried through the hall without effort. "High Commander of the Sanguine Collective's 3rd Fleet. We come to discuss terms of coexistence with the human species." "We are honored by your presence," Hale said, following the formal greeting they had practiced. "Humanity seeks peaceful relations and mutual understanding with the Sanguine Collective." Marcus tried to focus, but he kept getting distracted by the 3 women standing slightly behind Lord Various. Unlike the other vampires, who wore dark, formal robes, these 3 wore what looked like ceremonial armor. Each set was different, but all 3 were clearly sisters. They had the same sharp cheekbones, the same pale skin, the same intense eyes, though each sister's eyes were a different color. The eldest appeared to be in her 30s by human standards, though Marcus knew vampires aged differently. Her eyes were silver and her armor was practical, designed for combat. She stood like a soldier, back straight, hands clasped behind her back. The middle sister looked slightly younger. Her eyes were violet and her armor was decorated with intricate scientific symbols. She held a data tablet and seemed to be recording everything. The youngest, though young was relative when talking about beings who lived for millennia, had golden eyes and wore armor decorated with artistic patterns. She was watching the human delegation with unconcealed curiosity. Lord Various was speaking about trade agreements and territorial boundaries. Ambassador Hale responded with Earth's proposals. It was all very formal, very careful. Both sides were being polite, but there was tension in the air. Everyone knew this meeting would shape the future of human-vampire relations. Then Lord Various asked a question that their translator struggled with. "Before we proceed further," he said, "we must establish the blood bond status of your delegation leaders. It is our custom to know who carries existing obligations. Marital status, family connections. It is a matter of protocol in our society. We must know who holds claims upon you. Getting married next spring." He wasn't sure why this question mattered, but clearly it was important to vampire culture. "I'm single," he said. Then, trying to lighten the mood the way he always did when things got tense, he added with a self-deprecating smile, Eternally single, you might say. Married to my work. The entire hall went silent. Lord Various's amber eyes widened. The other vampire delegates stared in shock. Ambassador Hale grabbed Marcus's arm, confused and alarmed. "What?" Marcus started to say. The translator in his ear suddenly shrieked with multiple alerts. Then it delivered a message in a panicked tone. "Warning. Significant cultural protocol event detected. Previous translation was incorrect. Term eternally single in vampire context means seeking eternal bond. Subject has inadvertently invoked the claim of eternity courtship declaration. 3 claimants have responded simultaneously." "What does that mean?" "It means," she said in perfect English, her voice musical and amused, "that you have just declared yourself available for eternal partnership, and the 3 of us have formally claimed you as a potential mate." The middle sister, the scientist, tilted her head. "Intent is irrelevant in matters of the claim. You spoke the words, we answered. The bond is initiated. It cannot be revoked once accepted by both parties." He was speaking casually, in human terms. "It supersedes all other protocols." He turned to look at the 3 sisters. "Though I must admit, I have never witnessed a simultaneous triple claim before. This is unprecedented." Captain Rodriguez looked ready to draw his weapon. Dr. Kim was frantically typing on her data pad, probably searching for any information about vampire courtship customs. Marcus's mind was racing. This couldn't be happening. He had come here to help establish peaceful relations, not to accidentally get engaged to 3 alien vampires. "There must be a way to undo this," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. "I respect your customs truly, but this was an accident. A miscommunication. My sisters are Seraphine," she gestured to the warrior, "and Lysandra, the scientist. And while your claim may have been accidental, our response was not. We each had our reasons for answering your call." "That can be discussed during the courtship trials," Seraphine said. Her voice was hard but not unkind. "Courtship trials." Marcus felt like he was falling deeper into a nightmare. Lord Various sighed. "The claim of eternity, when accepted, initiates a 30-day period of courtship trials. During this time, the claimants must prove their worthiness to the one claimed. At the end of the trials, the claimed one must choose their eternal partner. The claimed one is marked as one who breaks sacred bonds. The claimants are exiled in shame. And in this case, given that a human has invoked our most sacred courtship law and then rejected it, it would be seen as an insult to our entire civilization. But it would certainly end any hope of friendly relations between our species. The Sanguine Collective takes these matters very seriously." Nyx, creative and mysterious. 3 powerful beings from a civilization that measured their lives in millennia, and somehow, through a stupid joke, he had just promised himself to all 3 of them. "How," Marcus said quietly, "do I even begin to handle this?" "You start by agreeing to the courtship trials, Marcus Chen of Earth. You have 30 days to get to know us, 30 days to understand our culture, and 30 days to make the most important choice of your very short human life." "All right," he said, straightening his shoulders. "I agree to the courtship trials." It had been exactly 3 hours since the diplomatic disaster. 3 hours since he had accidentally engaged himself to 3 vampire sisters. 3 hours since his entire life had turned upside down. His communicator buzzed. It was Ambassador Hale. "How are you holding up?" she asked when he answered. Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I've been better. Is there any way out of this?" "But Marcus, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about you anymore. If we handle this wrong, we could lose our chance at peaceful relations with one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. You're a cultural anthropologist. Study them. Understand them. Find a solution that works for everyone. You have 72 hours before the courtship trials officially begin. Use that time wisely. Then he stood up and walked to his computer terminal. If he was going to survive this, he needed to understand exactly what he was dealing with. He spent the next 2 hours reading everything Earth had on vampire culture. The Sanguine Collective was ancient. Their civilization had existed for over 50,000 years. They were long-lived, powerful, and deeply traditional. But the more Marcus read, the more he noticed something strange. Their culture hadn't changed much in the last 10,000 years. Same social structures. Same laws, same customs. They were stagnant. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Marcus opened it to find Seraphine standing in the corridor. She wore her armor and her silver eyes studied him carefully. "I came to begin my courtship," she said formally. "It is proper to demonstrate one's strengths and capabilities to the claimed one. I have conquered 17 hostile territories. I have never lost a battle. I offer you protection, strength, and military power. Tactical victories that were genuinely impressive. I could conquer the Zarin pirates in your honor," Seraphine said. "They have been troubling the border systems. A suitable gift for my chosen mate. You want to conquer someone, for me." They turned to raiding because they have no other options. That would be a much bigger display of strength than just defeating them. It takes real strength to build. You are the first to question whether the battles need to be fought at all. Consider your words. "I have brought my life's work to show you," she said, spreading the tablets across Marcus's desk. "I have been researching genetic compatibility between different species for 500 years. I have made breakthroughs that could allow vampires to survive on different types of blood. I offer you knowledge, scientific advancement, and intellectual partnership." Lysandra had mapped genetic structures of hundreds of species, finding patterns and connections that could revolutionize medicine. "This is incredible work," Marcus said honestly. "But can I ask you something? Why did you start this research?" "There must be a personal reason. 70 years at most. I wanted to find a way to extend it, to give her more time. I have been working on the problem ever since." Lysandra's voice was carefully controlled, but Marcus could hear the emotion beneath it. "Have you ever considered that maybe the problem isn't about making everyone live longer?" Marcus asked. "What if it's about making the time we have matter more? Keeping her memory alive in your work? But you're so focused on extending life that you might be missing the point. Life isn't valuable because it's long. It's valuable because of what we do with it, who we connect with, what we create. Questions that make me reconsider things I thought were certain." She paused at the door. "I find that unsettling, but also interesting." He was having deep conversations with two ancient vampires, challenging ideas they had held for centuries. It was exhausting, but also fascinating. The third visitor came late in the evening. Nyx arrived carrying what looked like an ancient book bound in dark leather. "I am not a warrior like Seraphine," she said, sitting gracefully in the chair across from Marcus. "I am not a scientist like Lysandra. I am a keeper of culture, a student of art and tradition. I offer you beauty, history, and understanding of the vampire soul. Written over thousands of years, I will recite one for you." When she finished, Nyx looked at him expectantly. "What do you think?" "It feels like it's trying very hard to be dark and mysterious. Human romance is usually more about connection than atmosphere. You are the first person to call it trying too hard. Our culture has been repeating the same patterns for so long that we've forgotten to ask if they still mean anything. We write poetry about blood because that's what vampire poetry is supposed to be about. We conduct warfare because that's what demonstrates strength. We pursue science to extend what is already eternal. We never do that. We are always so formal, so ancient, so proper. I heard you laugh at yourself and I thought, I want to understand that. I want to learn how to see the universe the way you do." "You didn't claim me because you want a mate," he said slowly. You claimed me because you want change. I am tired of reciting ancient poetry that no longer moves me. 50,000 years of the same traditions, the same thinking, the same patterns. And somehow these three sisters had seen in him, in humanity, a chance for something different. Marcus opened his communicator and called Ambassador Hale. "I think I understand what's happening," he said, "and I have an idea, but you're not going to like it. Show them that there are other ways to think about courtship, about relationships, about life. Maybe I can help them understand that the real goal is connection, growth, and understanding." He paused. "I just need to figure out how to do that without dishonoring their traditions or starting a war." Just another day in the diplomatic corps. He had 30 days to figure out how. The trials would begin tomorrow. The courtship trials began with a formal ceremony that Marcus found both beautiful and intimidating. The great hall of Threshold 7 was filled with vampires from across the Sanguine Collective. Thousands of them, all dressed in ceremonial robes, all watching him with ancient eyes. Lord Various stood at the center of the hall. "The courtship trials will proceed according to tradition," he announced. "Each claimant will have 10 days to prove their worthiness. At the end of 30 days, Marcus Chen of Earth must choose his eternal partner." But then he remembered what Ambassador Hale had told him that morning. "You have permission to try your idea. The council agreed to let you introduce human customs into the trials. Don't waste this chance." "Lord Various, if I may speak. I request permission to conduct these trials according to human courtship practices, as well as vampire ones. Not just their strengths or achievements, but who they truly are. I propose that instead of traditional displays of power, I spend time with each sister doing activities that encourage genuine conversation and connection. This is highly irregular. The claim of eternity has been conducted the same way for 10,000 years. We claim to value eternal bonds, but we reduce courtship to a competition. Perhaps the human way has merit. I support this proposal." "Very well. The courtship trials will incorporate both vampire and human customs. But Marcus Chen, you must still choose one partner at the end. That part of the law cannot change." Marcus had arranged to use the station's tactical simulator room. When Seraphine arrived, she was surprised to find not a battle scenario but a civilian rescue mission. "What is this?" she asked, studying the holographic display. "A colony ship is failing," Marcus explained. "Life support is breaking down. We have limited time to evacuate 3,000 civilians. The challenge is to save as many as possible. This requires strategy, quick thinking, and resource management, just like battle, but the goal is different." Marcus was impressed by Seraphine's mind. She saw patterns he missed, calculated trajectories faster than the computer, and coordinated rescue ships with precision. But what really struck him was her reaction when they saved the last group of civilians with only seconds to spare. "We did it," she said, and there was genuine joy in her voice. "All 3,000, we saved them all. But this," she looked at the holographic civilians, now safe on rescue ships. "This feels like something more, like the victory has meaning beyond the achievement. You were protecting lives, there's a difference." "Do you still get scared?" Marcus asked. "Yes," Seraphine admitted, "but I have not told anyone that in centuries. We are taught that fear is weakness. The question is what you do with that fear." Marcus had requested access to the station's biology lab. When Lysandra arrived, she found him looking at samples of his own blood under a microscope. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I thought we could work on a project together," Marcus said. "You wanted to show me your research, but instead of you presenting to me, what if we collaborated? Two minds working on the same problem." "What problem?" "If we understood the biological mechanism, maybe we could create synthetic substitutes. I was always trying to change vampire biology, not replicate what attracts us in the first place." What specific compounds were essential? Could those compounds be synthesized from other sources? At one point, Lysandra stopped and stared at a data readout. This is remarkable. You just helped me solve a problem I've been stuck on for 50 years. Because you don't think like a vampire, Lysandra said. I was so focused on the complexity of the solution that I missed the simple answer. Sometimes the most direct path is the right one. Lysandra held her cup carefully as if it were a precious artifact. Can I ask you something personal? Marcus said. Lysandra nodded. You said your friend died 300 years ago. Have you made any new friends since then? It seemed safer than connection. Your friend didn't leave you by choice, and she wouldn't want you to spend eternity alone because you're afraid of losing someone again. And friends want us to be happy, even after they're gone. After 300 years, I still miss her every day. Don't let the pain of losing her make you forget the joy of knowing her. Marcus had asked permission to use the station's art gallery, which was currently empty between exhibitions. When Nyx arrived, she found Marcus with paints, canvases, and art supplies from a dozen different worlds. I thought we could create something together, Marcus said. A fusion of human and vampire art. You show me your traditional forms, I'll show you mine, and we'll make something new. That's what makes it exciting. You can write about anything, Nyx asked, amazed. Not just blood and night and eternity. Poetry is about capturing moments and feelings, not following rules. But then something broke free and she wrote about the loneliness of immortality, the weight of tradition, the desire for change. It was raw and honest and beautiful. This is the best thing I've ever written, she said, staring at her words. Because it's true, Marcus said. You stopped trying to sound like a vampire poet and started being yourself. Then they created a piece together, blending their approaches. The result was stunning. Dark vampire aesthetics merged with human color and light, creating something that was neither fully vampire nor fully human, but entirely new. This is what I've been searching for, Nyx said, stepping back to look at their creation. This is evolution. This is growth. Nyx told Marcus about the weight of being a cultural keeper, of preserving traditions that sometimes felt dead and empty. Our culture hasn't changed in 10,000 years, she said, and I'm expected to make sure it never does. But I look at what we just created and I think, why preserve something that no longer serves us? You can respect tradition without being trapped by it. Do you understand how rare that is? You make us want to be different. The kind that changes and grows and surprises you. They had claimed him because he represented hope for change in a civilization that had forgotten how to evolve. But that made his situation even more complicated, because in 20 days, he would have to choose one of them, and whoever he didn't choose would face exile and shame. All three of them deserved better than that. Marcus sat at his desk and started researching the history of the claim of eternity. Somewhere in those ancient laws, there had to be another solution. There had to be a way to save all three sisters without dishonoring vampire tradition. He just had to find it. Marcus had been awake for 18 hours straight, his eyes burning as he scrolled through ancient vampire texts on his computer screen. Empty coffee cups littered his desk. His hair was a mess, but he was close to something. He could feel it. The claim of eternity had been created 12,000 years ago during the Unification Wars. Marcus had read that fact a dozen times, but this time something clicked. The Unification Wars. That meant the vampire civilization had once been divided. He pulled up historical records, cross-referencing everything he could find. The picture that emerged was fascinating. Ancient vampire society had been fractured into hundreds of different clans, constantly fighting each other. The claim of eternity wasn't originally about romance at all. It was a political tool. When two rival clans wanted to end their conflict, they would arrange for their heirs to invoke the claim. The resulting marriage would unite the clans, creating peace. The law was designed to prevent war, not to facilitate love. Marcus sat back, his mind racing. If that was true, then the spirit of the law was about creating bonds and preventing conflict. Not just romantic bonds, political bonds, social bonds, alliances. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. He opened it to find all three sisters standing in the corridor. They looked worried. "We need to talk," Seraphine said. Marcus let them in. The three sisters stood in his small quarters looking uncomfortable. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked. Lysandra spoke first. "We have been researching the history of the claim just as you have. We discovered something concerning. I represent the cultural conservatives. The direction of our civilization, our relationships with other species, our internal policies. We didn't realize this when we made the claim. We acted on impulse, drawn to what you represented. But our political enemies have realized the opportunity. Whichever faction loses will be weakened for generations." "Yes," Nick said quietly. "And so are you. The conservative faction on the High Council is hoping you'll choose me, because that would exile the military and scientific factions. The military hopes you'll choose Seraphine. The scientists hope for Lysandra. Everyone is using the claim to advance their own agenda. And we came to tell you that we release you from the claim, all three of us together. We will face the dishonor rather than force you to make a choice that could destabilize our society." These three powerful, ancient beings were willing to sacrifice everything to protect him and their civilization. "No," he said. The sisters looked surprised. "No," Lysandra repeated. "I'm not letting you sacrifice yourselves," Marcus said firmly. "There has to be another way." He went to his computer and pulled up the historical documents he'd been reading. "Look at this. The claim of eternity was originally a political tool. It was designed to unite warring clans through marriage alliances. The spirit of the law isn't about romance. It's about creating bonds that prevent conflict and bring different groups together. What if we honored that spirit in a different way? What if instead of choosing one of you as a romantic partner, I propose a treaty of companionship? A formal alliance between humanity and all three of your factions, with me serving as the permanent cultural liaison." "No, but it accomplishes the same goal," Marcus argued. "It creates lasting bonds between different groups. It brings together factions that have been in conflict. It honors the original purpose of the claim, preventing division and creating unity." He looked at each sister in turn. "You told me what you really want. Seraphine, you want to reform the military to make it about protection instead of conquest. Lysandra, you want scientific collaboration with other species. Nyx, you want your culture to evolve and grow. None of those things require marrying me. They require change. The three of you represent different factions, but you've all been changed by our interactions. You've all started questioning the old ways. If you stand together, if you show that collaboration between different perspectives is possible, it could inspire others. We'll argue that we're honoring the true spirit of the ancient law better than a traditional marriage would. One marriage unites two people. This treaty unites entire factions and species. Something passed between them, thousands of years of rivalry, recent experiences of growth, and a tentative hope. "I am willing to try," Lysandra said finally. "But Marcus, you need to understand. If this fails, we will all face worse than exile. We will be seen as having corrupted an ancient law. The punishment could be severe." "I like that word. I need to understand every nuance of vampire law, every precedent, every argument the council might use against us." He worked with the three sisters, reviewing ancient texts, preparing arguments, and rehearsing his presentation. Ambassador Hale and the human diplomatic team provided support, though they were nervous about the risk. "If this goes wrong, we could lose everything," Hale warned. "If we don't try, we've already lost," Marcus replied. The sisters deserve better than being political pawns, and the Sanguine Collective deserves a chance to evolve. Seraphine and Lysandra, who had barely spoken before, started collaborating on ideas for military-scientific partnerships. Nyx and Seraphine discussed how traditional warrior culture could be honored while evolving its purpose. All three of them began to see each other not as rivals, but as allies with different strengths. On the evening before the final ceremony, the four of them sat together in the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars. "I have a confession," Nyx said quietly. "When I first made the claim, I thought I wanted you as a partner, Marcus. But now I realize what I actually wanted was what you represent. The ability to change, the courage to question, the hope that things can be different. I don't want a romantic relationship. I want a friend who challenges me to think differently. I want collaboration and growth. It is transformation. Because I have to be honest, the idea of marrying someone who's lived for thousands of years and could accidentally crush me is terrifying." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Tomorrow, they would face the High Council. Tomorrow, they would either revolutionize vampire culture or face severe punishment. But tonight, they were four friends who had found something valuable in each other. Not romance, not obligation, but genuine connection and shared purpose. "Marcus," Seraphine said, "whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that meeting you has changed my life. For 2,000 years, I have been a weapon. You helped me remember that I can be more than that. That we can honor where we came from while still moving forward. About the value of questioning everything, even ancient laws. I trust you have made your choice. Tomorrow, we either change our civilization's future or we face exile together." He had one more night to refine his speech, to prepare for the most important moment of his life. He opened his computer and began to write, not just arguments and legal precedents, but words from the heart. Words about connection, growth, and the courage to imagine something different. Tomorrow, he would stand before the most powerful beings in the galaxy and ask them to change. Tomorrow, he would either make history or become a cautionary tale. But tonight, he was just Marcus Chen, a human who had accidentally stumbled into something much bigger than himself, and who refused to accept that there was no better solution. He wrote until the stars began to fade with the approach of artificial dawn on the space station. Tomorrow would change everything. He just hoped it would change in the right direction.